Let's talk about how love exists in all things, especially our mistakes, that which we perceive as mistakes. Let's go to the perfect lesson by Bob Ross right off the bat. There are no mistakes, there are only happy accidents. We all know that one now. So, what is happiness? Happiness is acceptance of all things, isn't it? That's happiness. I mean, think of it, if you're accepting of all things, all situations, everything that is presented to you, that's happiness. So is it a state of being, or is it a frame of mind? Is it the lens in which we observe, or is it the experience itself? Or is it both? It's a multiple choice question, and I think the answer varies by situation and person, time and place. What a glorious thing it is to be human, isn't it? To know that we have the ability to choose whether to be accepting or in rejection of the situations presented before us, and then to come to understand that we create them through our thoughts, feelings, and convictions. And that these routines are so convincing to be created by some external source. What a gift it is to be human. Especially during this time, folks. Talking about love being in all things. It is. It is in all things. But love can take on a great number of forms, and does. If we were to describe love in its truest of definitions, it would be the unified field. And we've talked about the unified field, but maybe I'll elaborate a bit more for you today, okay? When we talk about oneness, when I talk about it with you, I'm talking about origins. You see, where we are right now is in duality, where there's so much separation, so much distance between people, even in our own households, from the secrets that we hold near and dear to us, to the stories that we tell. There's this profound sense of individuality through separation. And is that happiness? Well, only if we're accepting of it. And by having acceptance of everyone's individuality and perceived separateness, even though it's illusion. Having acceptance of that, which is the same as non-resistance to that, is happiness. Love is in all things, as you can see. Very simple, very profound. Acceptance. The discourse of today. What is acceptance? It is, in effect, saying yes rather than saying no. It's not saying I agree. It's not saying this is pleasing to me. It's not saying I want more. It's not saying I never want this to end. It's none of that. But it's most certainly acceptance. In other words, we aren't saying no. Because when we say no, it's the same as saying I want more. Please allow me to explain this to you. And in order to understand this, we'll have to go back a number of lectures to the discussion on behavior, specifically functional behavioral assessments and the reinforcement of target behavior or undesirable behavior, and how the universe responds to our negative response by making more of it. Not because it hates us, not because it despises us, no. Simply because our emotions are there, our feelings are there, and they're there more than other things, more than the yes. That's what we're getting to today, okay? With our lesson on acceptance, which is a lesson on happiness and how to procure it. You see, this is a blank canvas as much as it seems filled. Your day is a blank canvas delivered to you. And if you'd like a little secret, I like to give them from time to time, usually at the end, but I'll give it to you early. For all those who are in a rush, need to speed off to whatever priorities, I get it. All right, I'll tell you the secret. The more you feel something, the faster it comes. And you have a 24-hour window in which to leave an impression for your following day. That's a big secret. Synchronicities are described in such a way, but without this detail. And that's why I like to add it. I've seen enough of it. Yesterday, I spoke about a movie. In fact, I erased the entire recording. It started to go south. Like it started to become vomitous. Wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, excuse me. I'm giving you the synchronicity of the day before yesterday and yesterday. For I don't have much synchronicities to explain to you at this point in time, though we may see them as we go across the paths, through the paths. But I can tell you, there was a recording that I erased. And it had a lot of good stuff on it, and it had some stuff that was calling out people, and it wasn't so friendly, you know. It would leave open windows and doors for people to get upset, and I don't want that. That's not why I'm doing this, as much as I may have said in comments before, thank you for leaving. That's just, that's my avatar, it's my ego self, and we are all allowed to be as ornery, as self-righteous, as narcissistic, and self-absorbed, or liberated and wise as we want to. That's the privilege that we get in being human. And it's because that part of us, as much as the world loves to put all the priority on our being of our avatar, I'm saying your name, your education, your life experiences, all that stuff, your sensory experiences, all your memories. That's your name, your ego, that's your identity. Because the world puts so much intense concentration on that, on our avatars, on the vessel that we play with, that we observe through. It seems like every action that we take defines us in some way. I mean, you can make a single mistake, say one thing. It could be one sentence, it could be one word. And that word could forever haunt you if you prioritize your identity over the reality of the situation before you, which is you become what you think about. And you are more a mere observer than a participant of this life experience. And the observer is not a detachment from self. No, the observer is fully aware of self, of identity. And it's also fully aware of the source that fuels it. So it's not a detachment, it's not a disassociation. It's not mental illness. though psychiatrists and social workers alike would approach it in that way, perhaps through the DSM, and say, okay, this person has dissociative tendencies, likes to detach from situations that are harmful, but does it in such a way that they lose track of reality. That's how a clinician would treat this. Perhaps tack on things like depression or post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever permanent label can be put on you so that you can permanently receive counseling on specific dates, filling up that calendar for said therapist, never to be released for the rest of your life. I mean, that's the ideal client. However, that's not the ideal therapy, I would argue. Because what I'm talking about is a profound sense of aliveness and awareness of that, and a watching of it. And from that comes acceptance and forgiveness, and the ability to look at one's own avatar's decisions in life and say, this does not define the avatar. I do. And what I see is a manifold expression of life, not just through this body, which is beautiful, miraculous in a number of ways, countless ways. But the miracles before me that I see, right here in these woods, walking this path, are profound. The unloading of frames that you see, miraculous. The fact that we can be doing this together, miraculous. I am accepting of this as observer. And should something jump out of the shadows, become perilous for this broken down man who is on his way to glory, I see it every day in deep, profound meditation. I see him changing and revitalizing himself, becoming young again. Maybe even part of the story is being despised for it. Being told he retired early and never should have. Whatever the story is, it's just a story of one lifetime that is a blip on the radar. So let's get to how we come to acceptance when there's so much opinion and so much judgment out there of one another. Well, first of all, I'm not the perfect example of this. However, you could come to a place where you don't judge anyone. You don't call out anyone. You just accept. As it comes, you receive it. You don't fight it. You don't run from it either. But instead, you do what I always say. You lean in. Not to listen, not to participate, but to feel it fully. What it is that you've placed so much importance into. These meanings of words, situations. And you start to question. Not by participating once again, but by observing, you question how it is you would be so attached to sound. Nothing more than sound. That's all these words are. Every time you hear words in your mind, entertain this. Remember what so-and-so said to you. Remember when they did this thing. They're not to be trusted. All these situations that you're hearing right now spark memories in the past and for you to entertain them. Yet, in their truth, they're nothing more than sound. I really want to break through with you in this. You associated meaning to the language that you learned as your primary language of talking. So, as English may be that for the majority of you watching, it holds a meaning, not just knowing the language, but where you're from with the language and how you've interacted with me, if you have, or if you haven't, or how. However that was. You have placed meaning to these words that are nothing more than sounds. Think of it this way. Let's just use it for an example. Let's say that this suddenly has become an alien planet, one that is yet to be explored. We're like Star Trek. The USS Enterprise has arrived at a newfound place where we see life. So the one judgment we've made thus far is there's life. Okay. And now we're observing. We're observing the environment, the quality of the air, and we're of course looking for sentient life, beings that have their own communication systems in order to show themselves as sentient. They have to have a communication system. And so what we do as explorers of this brand new planet is we are very accepting, aren't we, of everything that we see. And we're also at the same time diligent and not cautious, but alert to everything that we see and observe. Because we don't know what it would mean for us to walk fast or to walk slowly on this planet. It's something as simple as that. And we certainly don't know if these sounds that we make as words would or would not be offensive to the sentient life that occupies another planet. Because to them, it's just noise. And to us, their language is just noise, just sound. However, to both species, these sounds hold a particular meaning, and beyond that, function as a means to communicate amongst each other. For what? For mere survival. And so we communicate and label things and judge things, not because we're malevolent beings, but because we are afraid of death. And that is where acceptance plays an important, if not the most crucial part in life itself when it comes to overcoming your fears, is accepting that anything that is here, anything that you observe, myself, yourself, anything that is manifest, including the feelings in your body, the beating of your heart, all of this, with the exception of your imagination, is temporary. It is ephemeral. It has a short blip on a radar or on a single frame of billions of frames that continue on forever and have no beginning or end. So technically it's not billions, it's an infinite amount of frames. And we are somehow lodged in a singular place, having a life experience. But our experience in comparison to the whole experience that we can observe, that is the universe, is infinitesimally small. It's not even an iota of truth unless we decide to look beyond this experience of life and observe through the imagination, because you can. You can observe what it's like for something to be billions of years old. If you need an example, you look at a stone. You look at cobalt or perhaps hematite, and you're looking at it so that you can understand what something that is billions of years old looks like and feels like. And it gives you perspective. So you can what? So you can have acceptance of what you're seeing. Because if there is no acceptance of that, then you will be continuing to question things. And if you continue to question things and you do not take a moment to relax and feel the truth of your existence as immortal, then time will play with you incessantly. It will not stop. And we all know this now. I've said it 1,000,000 times. Time is the gateway to suffering. So you must eliminate time, and the way that you do that is you be present. There's no real trick to it. There's no tool that you use that gets you there. It is, I observe, I am alive. That's it. And you can even take back I am alive, and you can say I observe. For you may not truly be here, rendered in a local reality that is one life to live. This is the point that I'm trying to make to you regularly. In fact, all of the evidence now that's coming out scientifically that studies the quantum realm, quantum physics, quantum computing, dictates, without a question, that this reality that we are experiencing right now is what they call non-local, which means it hasn't been here until it's here. Non-local, right? Are you a local resident or are you a foreigner? Well, the truth of the matter is, whatever this construct is, it has been proven now that what we are experiencing is a very streamlined and smooth rendition of us creating the reality and experiencing it at the same time. Remarkable. For it seems so real and so fixed in place. For it to be remembered as perfect and rendered on the fly at a refresh rate that is in the form of nanoseconds seems to be a miracle beyond compare. And that is what it is. The gift of consciousness is the greatest miracle. For it is fueled by something that is a thought in the mind of God, the imagination. So rejoicing comes in acceptance of that. It's the idea that this is not fixed. This is not some place that has been here forever and always will be. The place is temporary. However, its source is permanent. And it is changeless. For the source is the power that pushes the water down the stream or pulls it. Either way, that is the source. It is the same force that sends out the ripples when you throw a stone in a clear, undisturbed lake. You cannot encapsulate that, you can't bottle it up. But it is there and it's observable and it is carrying out this sequence of events fluidly, perfectly, seamlessly for you, from you. Remarkable. So acceptance now takes on a different meaning. It's to say, whatever this expression is, no matter what my goals are, no matter what my aspirations or dreams are, if the feeling is one that is a profound no, in other words, my body is saying no because it's in pain, or it's restless, perhaps it's filled with anxiety, or the conversation has led to that very announcement. I'm fed up with this, I can't take this any longer, it's too much for me. Sorry, it might be for some people, but it's not my thing. I would much rather be in the city amongst blaring horns than find myself caught in the woods with this man walking. Is a profound way of saying, I am not comfortable with what is being rendered for me right now. By me. For me, by me. That is a video game. For me, by me. And there is a source, the system, the console, that powers the experience for everyone who is here as human. We all have our own system. That is the temple of God, our body. It is the actual set-top box. It's the experience that gives us everything from our sensory experiences to our memories, the storage of them in the DNA, and the firing and wiring of electric signals in the brain, and the magnetic activity of the heart and the chemical activities of the gut. This is our system, and the system is very beautiful. It is seamless, it's regenerative, its processing power is immediate and exact. It has very few errors and lasts for a very long time, considering all that it does. Even when it's being abused by us, we don't take care of our system, we don't put away the controllers, we don't unwind the knots from all the cables, and still it functions fairly well. So we have this beautiful set-top box system that is the human body. That was a coyote. Be still. Could be a scout. It's a cold winter day. I saw fur on the trail, but I didn't point it out with my camera. There it is. Little howling. So we have the set-top box. It provides us with this experience. We can hear it. We can sense it. We can feel it. Oh, that is a raven. That is a raven. We can sense things. There it is. I see it now. There it goes. Good steady flight pattern. Working hard. This beautiful system gives us all this sensory experience. All the 5 senses, plus this beautiful gift that is the imagination that we can dive into at any time. And what I mean dive into is we can, instead of using it to render this on the fly, right? To lay, as John Mayer says it beautifully, laying the pavement and driving it at the same time. He talks about that with creation of words on a typewriter. It's circling around now. Here it is. It's flying just above now. Directly overhead. It's circling again. Oh, there are 2 of them. Cool. Oh, wow. Very close. It's dive bombing. Look at that. That is a red-tailed hawk, I think. It was just dive bombing. Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable the way it stoops. Birds of prey are out right now. They must have some advantage with the sky being murky. Maybe. Have to look into that. The birds are quiet, as you can hear. No singing. Just prey. They're all prey right now. So we have this incredible system, all of us individually. And I'm having this experience, and you can live through me vicariously because I have this recording device that's part of my expression of self. How cool. That's YouTube, okay? So you have that. At the same time, you're having your experience, which I'm not seeing. I'm not experiencing it. However, it is part of the life experience. So as you can see, things are rendering for you that are not rendering for me, and vice versa. At the same time that you're seeing this on screen, I have a much wider field of view, my field of vision, or FOV, or field of view, is wider than the camera. Though you are receiving a good, nice, wide angle, I'm getting much more. I'm also getting the sensory experiences of the cold, which you are not. Unless you're doing this exact same thing, you will not. And even if you were doing the exact same thing, this is how beautiful this body is, you would experience it differently than me. For I have exposure to the cold. I've trained myself to benefit from it. Perhaps you haven't. Or perhaps you have. Regardless, Wim Hof is just as prepared as I am to face the cold, if not a lot more, for he gives himself cold exposure just about every day. His experience of this is different, which is to say everyone's conscious experience as human is always different than the other, no matter how close you are, no matter how embedded you are, because you have a unique perspective that is being offered not only through your senses, but from consciousness flowing through you, interacting with every single memory that you have embedded in your DNA. So all of your family experiences, all of your individualized life experiences, everything good and bad, accepting or not, is being factored as consciousness pours through you. And this should be understood. Think of it like a role-playing game. You have X amount of experience points, hit points, magic points, luck or intuition, and you have a specific class. It's something that you desire. It doesn't have to be fixed, but for the time you have one. And it's whatever you specialize in. You're either a support character or you're a tank or something in between. Maybe you're espionage. Maybe you're, I don't know, collecting data. Maybe you're a prospector of rich areas for harvest. Maybe you're a horticulturist focusing on the growing of plants. Whatever it is, it's your specialized way of looking at life that gives you happiness, that gives you acceptance of what is happening. It only is until we no longer accept things that distortions start to occur. Consciousness flows through us, gets the feeling that we are not happy with the situation, even though we are the creator of it. And that is where God cannot understand the concept of no. You see, God doesn't think, and when I say God, I'm talking about the source that gives you life. Your system is your body, it's your controller, it's the disc that you put into play, it's all that. However, the source is what gives you all of the beautiful rendering, the processing, and the updates, okay? When you say no to a situation, that source doesn't understand the difference between good and bad to you. It doesn't understand morality, concepts like that. And this is done as a defense mechanism for you. This is cool. Look at that. This was right here. I wonder what... Oh, it's in the water now. Anywho, that looks like could have been a tool of some sort. Could be a tool. It worked. Nice, it's just sitting there. Hadn't seen it before. Speaking of having not seen things before, we got all this ice coming out, which pushes out new things from time to time. Anyway, I was saying that each and every one of us has our own unique life experience, and that source does not judge with good or bad. It doesn't understand that concept, and that is a safety mechanism. I repeat, the fact that God does not judge our actions is a safety mechanism, because we are given so much freedom over the creation of our lives that the universal subconscious, the source that is pushing this all along, giving you what's called a manifold expression, a general unfolding in the now of life and its expressions, its infinite expressions. Its birthless, deathless, changeless expression is the force that either pushes or pulls things around. So much like the Force in Star Wars, you have force push and force pull. Now, no one ever sees something between force push and force pull. You see the person straining perhaps or concentrating, and then something at a distance moves. Well, this water that is moving is very fluid. And so it looks like nothing is really powering it or moving it along, that it has its own inertia. And that is because at some point in time, it was moved from its state of being still. And that which moved it is an infinite intelligence, and that which moves it also is an infinite intelligence that carries it through until the inertia is satisfied. And if there is no resistance, if nothing gets in the way of its movement, if there's no friction, if it's perfect traction and it's on its way without any interference, then it doesn't stop. It goes perpetually. And that's Newton's law of inertia. Something has to interfere with it in order for it to either slow down or pick up its pace. Otherwise, it stays exactly the way it is, how it was pushed from whatever moment. And so think of consciousness as it either received a push or a pull, however you want to look at it. More than likely, it was a push from a supernova. And before that, who knows, maybe it was a pull from a black hole. And before that, who knows, because this never ends, the multiple bang theory is the truth. There was no beginning. So consciousness has always been here, and it has a certain amount of momentum. And that momentum can only be interfered with to a certain extent. In other words, it must continue. And it seems to be continuing in an expansive fashion for now. It seems to be expanding. So we have this law of expansion. And it carries with it inertia. And we can play with it. But we can't stop it. But we can play with it. That's what I know so far. So how do we play with the inertia of consciousness? What is inertly given to it for its expression, which is infinite and is an infinite thought in the mind of God. Inertia in that way, or consciousness, is the imagination. So we use the imagination to play with it, knowing we can't stop it. Just like you can't stop your thoughts. They're constantly running. You can't stop them. If you say, I've stopped all my thoughts, I'm completely still, congratulations, you won't be here. No more time. You'll be present. At the same time, you will then witness in your presence, in your complete and total stillness, God's manifold expression. The soaring of the birds of prey above us, the quietness of these woods, the silence, is a pure manifestation. In fact, silence is one of the greatest ways to come into being. And when I say come into being, I mean be present, so that you can see this manifestation, as still as it may perceive itself through you, still moving. So let's get a little bit of that right now. I like to stop here, and it's perfect because we can observe the remnants of Coyote's presence. I wasn't planning this, but it is here. So let's observe. You see how this is not moving? However, the camera lens is. the woodpeckers are courageous. You can hear them squeaking. They're unique. They're very friendly, very courageous, also very alert. I can be still, but there's still an aliveness. Even if you were to pause this and look, there's an aliveness that never escapes us as human. Never. That's why you can look at a photo of someone who's deceased and feel your heart fill up with joy, because they feel alive for no other reason but that. I didn't want you to mistake me as thinking someone's passing is joyous. It's the fact that we can see their aliveness even still. Because it's truth. Consciousness comes and goes through things. Consciousness itself does not die. It comes and goes through things. We are those things. In a lot of ways. We also make things that God experiences life through. So just as the water moves down that stream, it is being pushed or pulled by some force that we cannot bottle, we cannot contain. It's not possible. Yet it's there at the same time. A simpler concept would be the wind or your breath. You see how much you're breathing in? No. But you know, you sense that you're breathing. I mean, if you're present. This is why the breath and silence are two wonderful ways to eliminate time, aside from saying, I observe. Say it in your mind. Say it to yourself, I observe. And then breathe. Observe that breath. Because you're not looking at it, you're feeling it. So you're observing the feeling. Now we're getting somewhere. Because that's the real petrol when it comes to moving things along and finding acceptance with whatever is being presented to you, no matter how distorted or unsavory it may be. You will find through the breath a wonderful companionship. So if you ever feel alone, just remember you're breathing. That's a companion. And that will get you in touch with your body. Also a companion. And that will get you in touch with the I am observing. Hello. It's okay. I'll go this way. Don't worry. Okay. Good, how are you? Good. It's okay, I'm friendly. So it puts you in touch with the I am. You have an exchange, your heart rate goes up. You might not know what to do, how to move, where to go. And then there's a moment where you accept that, either because the situation has ended or you have really fulfilled an amazing achievement in observing that you are alive and observing this talk, which I was unable to do just then. I was literally taken from awareness right into my role, going to play a role, and I did. And then how long until I came back into awareness? What if I were to tell you that just that in itself, coming back into awareness of your aliveness as an observer of you, is all you need to do to live a wish-fulfilled life? What if I told you that? You could say, well, William, are you living a wish-fulfilled life? I am. I am. I live on my billionaire trail right now, walking. I go to my estate every day. I tend to the gardens. I spend time with my children. I make love to my wife. I educate the communities. I hold my wife's hand as we do that together. Anytime my children call, I answer. I give them whatever they need. I look at the fruits of our labor and I share it with the communities again and again, every day. Everything that I make plenty of it so that there is plenty to give. So yes, I do live a wish-fulfilled life. However, my friends, that may not appear so to you. Just as it may not have appeared so if you were to see Jesus of Nazareth walking down the road, or perhaps St. John the Baptist, being a vagabond as he was, a desert ascetic. Seemed like he was pretty down and out, according to those who put so much care and effort and judgment into their own appearance and identity. Camera's gonna need to be down. Actually, camera can be up. And now I get a second chance to observe. Observe myself and observe the aliveness of others. It's beautiful how God works in this way. This is why mistakes, if you were to consider yourself becoming a performer for however long of a period of time, and then come back to observing how you are performing, when God gives you that extra opportunity, that extra chance, you know going in that you're doing something profoundly good for yourself and others, because you are blessing everything when you observe. Just your mere observation brings blessings to everyone and everything. All right, let's do this. We have an opportunity for a shortcut. There's another one of those tools, it looks like. Cool. Two of them, one on each side. totems, relics. Cool. Seem to be either brecciated jasper or red jasper. Maybe with some hematite inclusions. Pretty cool. So just know that as you observe your aliveness and everything around you, you cannot play a role at the same time. So you observe the role. Therefore, you give life to the role without interference or sending your consciousness through the prism of your life, the prismatic life, which is your collection of everything your senses have taken in, all your memories, all your ancestry. All of that gets bypassed when you just observe you're alive. And so what's so beautiful about that, I think, if you're asking me, is that it's pure light. It is, it's pure light and effervescence of truth that goes through you and everything you see, everyone you talk to, everything you witness, from the ravens to the not so common passerby. Here comes the chickadees, starting to sound off. See how that is? When you observe rather than participate, everything around you starts to feel your electromagnetic energy. And it comes alive. It comes fully alive. And you can just observe that, knowing that you're shining even more light on the situation. Well, my set-top box, this body, this video game console that's carrying out this life experience, loves numbers and language, loves words. It also loves music, and it loves sequences or cycles and things that can predict cycles. Big part of my life now. And those prediction of cycles, predictions used to be just something that I didn't consider at all. But now I take it into consideration. Not as much as I used to, actually. Seems like I'm coming out of it. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because right now, for everyone, we are going through 7 52-day cycles per year. They coincide with the moon in a unique fashion. And mostly coincide with the year in a unique fashion. However, we are all in our own unique cycle based on the day we're born and the year. Chilly today, but fun. Chilly and fun. As I observe, not so chilly anymore. Start to observe and it's not so chilly. Well, it just so happens that now I am moving out of a phase that to me carries a lot of Venus energy, which is friendship energy, loving energy, and musical energy, artistic expression. And it is moving into Saturn energy, which is the energy of harvest, where you reap what you sow, the fruits of your labor from a given year, and where Venus was the blossoming and the forming of the fruit, Saturn is the dropping of it and the enjoyment of it, of course. However, it's also required to preserve seeds for those annual plants or biannual plants that need to be revived through seed. We must be diligent with that as well. So there's some conservation involved. You have to be conservative. Well, that was a hill. Sure felt that today. Until I was observing. Right, well. Little message for the woods. Like treasures. Like treasures that you bury. Well, I was saying that Saturn is with me until my birthday. Just as Saturn is with you 52 days before your birthday, until your birthday. And then the sun comes in for 52 days, and then the moon for 52, and then there's this beautiful Earth period where it's a combination of Mars and Mercury, where there's a lot of growth. Vegetative. See, the sun is the seed, the moon is the water, and the germination through the mind. Mars is the force that breaks the earth and allows that seedling to express itself, and Mercury shows the way, the path. Jupiter gives it expansion and a canopy, and Venus the blossoming, until it fruits, and then Saturn manages the fall. And the renewal takes place again and again. Where I am right now is coming into Saturn's phase. So it's a time for reflection, conservation of energy, harvest, but not so much in an expansive way that you would perhaps in August, September, or October with the beautiful powers of Jupiter, also known as Zeus. No, it's not quite like that, because you still have to have enough seed to be able to express what it is you want to see grow and fruit through the following year. So there's a lot of preparation involved. There's a lot of tilling of the earth, where you are drying out the wet spots by lifting it up and folding it, and more evenly distributing your resources, i.e., all that was left in compost from that which you discarded and decided not to use now serves a terrific purpose in the renewal of the earth. And what's beautiful about tilling in this way, and when I say tilling, it's just working the earth, is that it gives back more nutrients than were taken from it for the expression of your plants in almost all instances and circumstances, until you start to abuse that privilege. and turn it into a monoculture filled with pesticides, where the good bugs are no longer invited to kill the bad bugs. And the bad bugs have evolved somehow miraculously to survive even the most horrific of poisons, and have flown off to other easier to conquer areas now that they have their superpowers. And these bugs are brought to you by the GMO companies, the big ones, the monoliths, you know, Monsanto, Cargill, those folks. They make superbugs for a living by trying out pesticides on areas that are designed to be light. I mean, monocultures are designed to turn into blight because you have no diversity. And so that should say something. Without diversity of plants and life and creatures and all things creeping and crawling, you have disease. So you have to have diversity. However, how do you manage diversity while at the same time failing to renew the earth, failing to replenish it, to do the basic tilling? Instead, we are all going to the supermarket. It used to be called a convenience store. Now it's called a supermarket. So it's no longer convenience, it's the way of life. So we have no contact with this. You see these leaves, they serve a purpose. But if these were to be on your lawn, you would be freaking out right now. I know, it's okay. You'd want to rake these up and put them in a bag and send them off to Home Depot. I know. You'd want to mow over them. And all that beautiful mulch that has brought in resources through these deciduous trees when they were alive during their vegetative seasons, just like we are, falls back into the earth and replenishes it with greater resources than what were taken in order for it to have its growth and its food, to have longevity. This is a natural cycle. However, where we are as humans is anything but natural. We have given up all of our connection to this. Thus, without recognizing the renewal stage where we need to be conservative with our energy and give no explanation needed to anyone for our need to recharge and recover and say, I'm not interested in being in a relationship right now, it's not the right time. The right time would be when we're planting these seeds in the soil. But for now, this soil needs to be tilled so that it can dry out, so that it can redistribute its resources and be prepared for the seeds to be planted come spring. There's a natural order to this. And the order speaks to us in droves, but we ignore it as humans until we come into acceptance of it. We try to beat it, which it's like man against nature, man versus nature, and you know, until we submit it or get it to submit to us. And that's not the way to do it, because every season you miss out on the tilling and the conservation of resources. And what happens is you spend everything come Christmas time and the holidays. There's nothing left but a feeling of lack. And that carries in to the season of seed planting and sets up a perpetual cycle of poverty that you may not even know or see because it's energetic. Much like the power that moves the ripples along the lake that's been disturbed, you can't observe it until you are present and still. And so we must practice this full cycle and recognize that we are no exception to the rule. And based on the time that we're born, we have an energetic cycle that we should listen to if we know any better. And that is what I have focused on for a number of years, understanding that I hadn't focused on it for way more time than I've been doing good for myself. Understanding that these challenges, however distorted as they appear do not benefit from my judgment of them. Instead, they benefit when I lean in and accept that it is God's manifold expression working things out. And the more that I observe my aliveness, the more I step out of the way and allow the real good work to take place and happen without my interference or the interference of others. Because if you're not there, no one can harm you. No one can interfere with you. No one can do anything to you. And thus, the only benefit they get is the benefit of your aliveness, recognizing that they are alive, and blessing them with your presence. Same thing goes with the creatures around you, the animals, and the environment, and especially your human body, the temple of God that is yours. So come in contact with your body and recognize its aliveness. Try to listen to the beating of your heart. Take a look at yourself in the mirror and say something kind to yourself. Fake it if you need to until you make it, but do it. Especially in these beginning days of the year, as we are conserving energy in preparation for a bountiful harvest come next year. Now is a great time for us to recognize the good that is intrinsically within us. And all the rest comes through acceptance. Acceptance that you are alive, regardless of what is happening, regardless of what is perceived and how misaligned it may be in your mind with what you would really like to have. Start to come in contact with the things that you already have, that you wouldn't give up, and would be a part of your world on this billionaire's path. Try that. You have your mobility. You have your health. You have your breath. You have food in your belly. How is this any different than if you were a billionaire walking? No different. The only difference is you feel you have more in one situation than perhaps you do now. So you revise that by reminding yourself that there's no difference between who you are now and who you are as a billionaire, with the exception of how you perceive yourself. So have acceptance of yourself as the wish-fulfilled, fruitful version of you. Understanding that every thought is a seed planted in the mind of God that serves as a wish. So until next time, keep wishing and wish well. Know you're loved. Keep breathing. You're not alone. God bless you. God bless everyone. God bless the United States.